Hello there, Nat Edwards and Riley Beveridge with you. We'll be keeping it simple thanks to AHM Health Insurance as we run you through what games will look like in 2020. So Riley, 16 rounds to go, 144 games plus finals to play and a heavily reduced season. What about the actual game though? How is it going to be structured? Will it look different?
Won't look too different. There's only one change that's been implemented in terms of the way the game's going to be played. Okay. We've already got a taste of that in round one. So that's shortened 16-minute quarters down from 20 minutes, which is the normal that we've seen for years on end. Yep. So the reason for this is because essentially they brought it in ahead of round one thinking that we might have a condensed season, which we do. But now we know that games will be played weekly, but there's still going to be an extra burden on players because they've essentially done their full pre-season over the summer. They've played one game and then they've had 3 months off. Crazy. So that huge disruption to their schedule, the fact they'll only have now a 3-week mini pre-season before the actual start of the season, it's going to have an increased burden for them to shoulder. So they need shorter game times to be able to get them through the season. That's why we've got 16-minute quarters. That'll be introduced for the entirety of the home and away season, as well as the final series and the grand final.
So 16 minutes plus time on, but what about quarter time, half time? Those lengths are the same for those breaks?
They're all the same. And the other stuff that we saw in round one as well. So obviously no crowds. We know that's the case throughout probably the majority of the season, if not the entire season. There'll be no crowds due to the global COVID-19
Fake
pandemic.
Crowd noise though.
There might be at some stage throughout the year. Depends if television broadcasters introduce that and what that looks like. There'll also be social distancing on the ground. We know we saw sort of physical distancing with player celebrations. They weren't high-fiving. They were doing the elbow things in round one. They were doing celebrations with their feet. The water boys had some trouble getting water onto the ground. They had to separate them as well, the water bottles that they're drinking. So there's all those type of things as well, which won't impact the way the game's played, but they're just subtle differences to the way we'll watch footy.
Yeah, it'll take a little while to get used to those things. Now, several coaches have actually called on the AFL to introduce an extended interchange bench. Could we also see that come into play?
Potentially. So there's no decision on this just yet. It's the only change that's still being debated at AFL House. As we know, you're only allowed 4 on the interchange bench at the moment. Steve Hocking said on Wednesday, that there might be 1 or 2 more added to the interchange bench. That goes back to what we were saying with 16-minute quarters. Obviously, the players have had a heavily disrupted season. They've had nearly 3 months off where they've just been cooling their heels and waiting for footy to come back. When they do come back, because of the increased physical burden on them, 1 or 2 players in the interchange bench will mean there's probably not more rotations, but you're allowed to have greater lengths of time off the field, which allows their body to recover better. That's why that's still being debated. Okay. Steve Hocking said earlier this week that we wouldn't know whether or not that would be confirmed until the week of round 2, which is due to fall on June 11.
Now, what about club personnel changes? Because that's a big one. The soft cap, as we know, has been slashed as clubs deal with the financial impact of COVID-19. The makeup of football departments can be fairly complex at times. So can you make it simple for us? What is the impact at Clubland? As
you said, football department expenditure has been slashed greatly due to the financial implications of COVID-19. At the moment, only 25 members of the football department are allowed to be in physical contact with the players, which means they're allowed to go into the club facilities, watch training from the ground, all of those things. It's been mandated from the AFL that a doctor, a psychologist, a player development manager and a compliance manager must be part of that 25. So that's foregone. The rest of the 21's made up of footy bosses, senior coaches, obviously, assistant coaches, some specialist coaches have kept their positions, some physios have kept their positions. There's also staff members that are allowed to be employed at the moment and work at the moment, but remotely. So you'll see players, people like list managers, recruiters, they're working remotely. So they're working from home for now. They're not allowed in at the club.
And they're not part of those 25?
No, they're not. They're in addition to that.
Okay. And so we used to see these images of a really full coaches box on the match broadcast. I'm guessing that's going to look very different.
Yeah, that'll be slashed. Reduced numbers in the coaches box during games, reduced numbers of football department members on the bench during games. The area where this has really hit the most is in terms of part-time and casual staff members, whether or not they'll be brought back. There's been a lot of changes at a whole heap of different clubs. Also specialist coaches. So you'll see kicking coaches, you'll see ruck coaches, goal kicking coaches. A lot of them haven't made it back through this and their jobs have been sacrificed in the wake of this sort of unprecedented event, which is a really disappointing factor.
Well, we do hope that footy comes back to normal at some point in time. Thank you, Riley. There you have it. Footy made simple thanks to AHM Health Insurance. Make sure you keep clicking back to afl.com.au and the AFL Live official app for all of your footy news as we count down to the restart of season 2020.